Hello, everyone. Welcome to my free-to-play but endgame series of the Faction Wars Crypt run-throughs. This is not necessarily the first episode that I shot, but it is going to be the first one that I air in the series, and it is about the Banner Lords, which is a decent. There are a decent pool of champions in this faction, so basically, when you're working on your Faction Wars teams, for those of you who are not as advanced in the game, you really want crowd control to help deal with the waves, particularly the really healy waves. Sometimes you'll encounter those waves that have a Cephalia and a Thanasil, just duplicates of those, and they're constantly healing one another, and that can be annoying as hell and just wall you out completely. Crowd controlling the enemy teams basically means they can never do that. Some of the best crowd controllers in the game are here. One of them is free from the Doom Tower. It's Archmage Helmut, and he's super duper fantastic. He's got a stun on his A2. I put mine on a stun set so that he just puts out stuns like crazy. I've also got Staltus Dragonbane, who's got an AoE stun as well. Stag Knight is just a fantastic epic. You're likely enough to pull him at some point, and he puts out the decreased defense, decrease attack. Extremely useful. He's also got a decreased speed on his A1, so he's kind of got it all. So if you find him, consider yourself very lucky. I got Ursula the Mourner as my only healing support in the team, but she's about all you need. If you did the Kaja the Rai event recently, she's probably even better than Ursula, but Ursula is fantastic. I like to have a rare in every single Faction Wars team that I run, just because of that daily quest that you can get. So the one I chose was Valerie. She's a fantastic champion, one of the best rares in the game, I think, particularly in the early and mid game. Maybe toward the end game you won't use her as much, but she has buff extension, which can really help with keeping your team alive. She's basically keeping the buffs on constantly. She's also got a heal. She's also got an increase attack, albeit the weak version, but it's still there. And that's about that. If you are struggling to get crowd control, that's where you want stun sets. And in fact, when I build my rares that end up being dedicated to Faction Wars, and it's actually well worth building some of your rares to dedicate toward endgame Faction Wars stuff and endgame secret rooms in the Doom Tower, especially the starter champions, so you don't have to feel guilty about completely maxing out your starter champion, even if maybe you got lucky and you got a Lego and now you're torn whether to max them out first. Max out your starter first. Your starter will still be good in the end game, particularly if you didn't start with Kale. Kale is kind of the odd man out because there is one rare that I think is considerably better than Kale and another one that's somewhat better than Kale. I'll cover those when I do the Dark Elves though. But often you're going to want to build your starter in a stun set with the Fearsome Presence Mastery. And the more champions like that you can get into Faction Wars, the more crowd control you'll get, even if you don't have crowd control characters. So that's about all I've got to say about that. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you on the next video. I will label these properly so that you can choose which faction you want to check out. I'll try to have advice for each faction. But until then, take care of yourselves.